you.
Violation. Violation.
I see you met Cynthia.
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
And that's how I said much line.
2 inches over regulation.
Thanks, Cynthia.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
All right. Y'all hear me? I guess I was too close to this mic, maybe. So a lot of people know Cynthia as Karen. All right. Every neighborhood has a Karen, right? It's how many of you live in an HOA regulated community? Ooh, a lot. Okay. All right. How many of you love your HOA? None. None. That is unfortunate. Nobody loves their HOA. Now I had this great T-shirt I was going to give away because I knew there'd only be one person, and they could wear it to the next meeting. But unfortunately, nobody gets it. HOAs. It's my PowerPoint's not working again. It's love or hate it, folks. It's crazy. People love to talk about their HOA, talk about how bad they are and how they just ruin everybody's lives. But people want to be a part of it. All of you live in HOA, most all of you. What they are, basically, they're non-governmental contractual entities, and here's the important part. They're 100% voluntary, okay? You do not have to live in HOA, right? And we see court cases across the country continue to say that. Now, once you move into an HOA, you got to be a member. It's required. But the point is, you do not have to live in that subdivision. You can go live in the country, or you can go live somewhere else. It's not happening. So it is voluntary. The court cases point to that every time when a homeowner, for instance, raises issues with their HOA. So what are they? HOAs are defined as community associations. Okay, we wrap HOAs into one big family of things called community associations. They include condominium associations. They include co-ops. They include homeowners associations, property owners associations. The fact is that what it is a group of people who manage and maintain their shared spaces in a geographical area. That geographical area may be a building, it may be a street, it may be a subdivision, it may be a big plot of land. But it's people who have a common focus for the same thing. Currently, you're ready, 77 million people in America live in an HOA or a community association. 77 million people. To put this in perspective, in 1990, there were 10 million people living in a community association. 2000, there's 20 million people living in a community association. Today, 77 million, and every year it's going up 3 to 5 million people. All right? It's growing astronomically. 369,000 different community associations in the country. That's a lot. That's a lot of HOAs. It's a lot of COAs, community association homes. This is also growing every single year. Year 2000, there were 200,000. Now there's 369,000. I don't know, maybe by 2030 there'll be 500,000. Why is this? Well, first of all, 82% of all new homes are being built in a community association. That's a pretty staggering statistic there. That's almost every single home in America that's being built right now is a part of an association. Why is this? Why are they so popular? Local governments love them, okay? Most local governments now are requiring an HOA for all developments. I know they are around our area. Mississippi, obviously we have north, central, and south urban areas for the most part. We got Meridian and Vicksburg, and they have a few here and there. And Hattiesburg, of course, has several. But most of those local governments do require any new development to have an HOA. They want covenants and regulation. Why is this? It's a planned community. All right, this government's love it. All right, they get to plan for schools, infrastructure. They get to know what's fixed to happen. Normally, a development's phased in over time, so you have phase 1 through 5, so they can plan for things and they can provide those services that they know they're going to have to provide. Also, it shifts a lot of responsibilities from the government to private, right? All of a sudden, the HOA is responsible for a lot of different things. Entrances, landscaping, street lights, in a lot of cases, drainage in some cases, signage, street signage. It shifts all that responsibility, which ends up freeing up dollars, tax dollars, and resources of the city or the county to treat. So they can spend money on something else. They're not going to save the money, but it gives them the opportunity to spend it on something else. Another thing I failed to mention is the recreational facilities. This aids in safety and crime prevention. All right? Living in close quarters, houses next to each other, people take care of one another. It's just a proven fact. It's less likely to have crime in an area that people are living on top of each other and care about one another and looking after one another. We all look after our neighbors if we're living in a neighborhood, right? It's hard to steal stuff. And then finally, and probably the most important thing, is amenities and protection value. People love amenities, right? They love swim pools, they love walking trails, they love Mayberry. All right, everybody wants Mayberry back. They want to be able to walk down the street, wave at their neighbor, say hi. They want to take their kids to the pool. They want to go to the clubhouse and have birthday parties. It's a good thing. People love it. And then also, 99% of the time, it's somebody's largest asset. Right? Their home is their largest asset. And they want it to maintain that value to leave to their kids, or whatever the case may be. So protection of value is another driving force behind the popularity of community associations. Popularity obviously brings regulation, right? We all know that. It's whenever something, you can't have too much of a good thing, right? So 369,000 associations in America, a third of all Americans are now living in an HOA. Regulation is starting to pop up. Does anybody recognize this picture here? It's in Florida. It's called Champlain Towers. Champlain, not Champagne. It's in Seaside, Florida. You know, the condominium complex, this is pictures from 2021. It collapsed. And Seaside's a little bit north of Miami, to put it in perspective. But the condo collapsed somewhat unexpectedly, killing 98 people, unfortunately. 98 people died. The reason for the collapse was degradation of concrete and deferred maintenance, right, which was the direct responsibility of the COA, the Community Association. They were aware of it. They had inspections done. It was, in particular, some pillars that were underneath the pool area of the condominium. And they were trying to raise money to fix it when the collapse occurred, killing 98 people. It resulted in settlements of over $1 billion. All right, this was a big deal. There were a lot of property damage settlements, of course. Obviously, the 98 people that unfortunately lost their lives. But when things like this happens, what happens? Our legislators jump into, they go nuts. Let's pass laws, okay? Which is what Florida did. Like, they immediately went into session, started passing laws like crazy. Comprehensive set of community association laws. It's one of those things that really looked good on paper, but turned out to maybe not be so good. May 2024, Ron DeSantis, who I suppose is anti-regulation, but he signed a comprehensive community bill. It took effect last July in Florida. And the only reason I'm talking about this really is because I find it so interesting. Now, we do have offices in Florida, we have offices in Alabama, we have offices in Mississippi. And to clarify, my law firm and my title company and my management company are all different, completely different entities. They are not involved with each other in a shape, form, or fashion. In fact, they have different ownership. But I'm in Florida. I go to a lot of meetings in Florida, and this is just fascinating to me. I'm really telling you because I'm hoping this does not go across the country. Okay, this kind of regulation, this wave that we're seeing down in Florida. Here's the big deal. It requires inspections of condominiums. They call them milestone inspections. And it's going to be every 10 years, every condominium in Florida that's 3 stories or higher has got to undergo this milestone inspection. It's called a phase 1. All right, it's intense, it's involved, okay? This is not a, hey, looks fine to me, okay? No, it's every system in that building. Every mechanical system, every waterproofing, every roof, every fire suppression system, every alarm system, every pillar, everything in that building. It's as if the building was just being built, okay? These things cost a fortune, these phase one inspections do. If you fail the inspection, and I have yet to hear an engineer in Florida that will not say every condo in Florida will fail phase one. Every single condo will fail. All right? That's what all the engineers agree on. If you fail it, you have 12 months to remediate. All right? Whatever the problems are that they found, you have 12 months to correct them and then receive your phase two inspection. All right? The other things we included was document transparency. These types of things are something that our law in Mississippi, in fact, already has, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. But it requires the HOA, COA, Community Association to publish their documents on their website, make them available to all the members. If they don't have a website, they've got to present to them by email or some other way. Financial accountability. This requires the board to maintain financial accountability over the funds of the community association. More importantly, it did add some criminal charges to those board members, who, by the way, are volunteers and probably don't want to go to jail because of it. But there's misdemeanor and also felony charges that Florida added to the law for financial accountability, requiring the board to be fiscally responsible. Parking regulations, not what you think. I don't know how this got in there, but basically what this says is you cannot have parking regulations. If there's anywhere to park, it's legal, people can park there. No reserved spaces for these people, reserved spaces for those people. I don't really know how that got in there, that's the definition. Contractor selection. A lot of community associations have a list of contractors that you must use. Roofers, plumbers, landscapers, whatever it may be. That's out. No more of that, okay? You get to pick and choose who you want to use in Florida. Provide governing documents to every resident. I know that all of you, most of you probably close real estate, that's why you're here. If you're like me, you've had that call a year later from somebody and they say, hey, you didn't give me a copy of my covenants. I didn't know that there were covenants in my neighborhood. Well, first of all, I don't believe that for me. But I don't think any of us here really know whose responsibility that is. I mean, a lot of times we rely on the realtors to do it. Sometimes realtors may think that we're doing it. Of course, we're searching in our title. We find the covenants there. We know they're there, but we don't pull copies of them and give them to people. Florida's gone one step further. They are requiring the HOA or the COA to provide those documents to the owners. Right? It is their responsibility, not the realtor, not the closing attorney, theirs. Finally, board education. This is pretty good, actually. This requires board members who, remember, are volunteers. And we won't even get into fencing today. Fencing's a whole other deal where they got to register with the federal government for volunteers in HOA board. But these are volunteers, everyday people, other jobs, families, things to do. This requires them to undergo 4 hours of education when they sign on to be a board member as a volunteer. All right, 4 hours. Every 3 years after that, they got to do 1 hour. No, every 2 years. Every 2 years after that, they got to do 1 hour of education. In a way, I think this is a great thing. All right. Maybe they went a little overboard. 4 hours is a little bit much. Our company, we offer a 1 hour course to board members. And it's a good course. It gives them. A lot of us are lawyers. A lot of us are in the business field. We know how things work. Okay. We're dealing with common, everyday people with everyday lives that volunteer to be on the HOA board. They may not sign their name 300 times a day like we do. They may not understand documents like we do. They need education. So what we do is we tell them what Robert's Rules of Order are. Okay? We tell them what bylaws are. We tell them how their meetings need to operate, how minutes are written, what their covenants require, how to be reasonable. You're going to hear me say that word several times today. Reasonable, reasonable, reasonable. I say it 150 times a day, I think. They got to be reasonable, and they got to learn how to do that. They just need to learn what their responsibilities and their duties are for their other members, because they are the elected body for the membership, all right? Board of Education. And trust me, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody here, but this next slide was a board member who was asked, the president of the board, who was asked to sign a bank document, okay? They, as the duly authorized representative of the board, they signed a duly authorized association officer, all right? They just didn't know, okay? They just didn't know. It's not, it's one of those things that they just need to be educated. But anyway, so Florida passes these laws, they go into effect July 1. What do y'all guess has happened? All right? It's costing money, okay? These phase ones are costing a ton of money. The engineering firms are backed up. Let's don't even talk about the remedial efforts, okay? It is a fire sale in Florida right now. All right, and I hope none of you own a condo in Florida. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, because I know probably a few of you do. And you may already know about this. Inventory is going out the roof. Sales prices are bottoming out, okay? Sales prices are down 21% this last month over last year, okay? It's dropping. In 93% of Florida markets, sales prices are plummeting, all right? Pre-COVID, Florida averages about 22,000 condos a month on the market, okay? Across the entire year. Of course, it goes up a little bit during the summer, it goes down during the winter. Averaging 22,000. Post-COVID 2023, people finally are like, hey, I didn't mean to buy that condo. What was I thinking? Let's start selling it. 45,000 on the market. Last year, in the year, was 64,000 on the market. Currently today, there are 66,000 on the market, and it's going up every month, okay? Why? People are getting those phase ones. What they're doing now is they're doing preliminary phase ones, which do not have to be reported to the government. So they're giving these condos an idea of, hey, here's what you're going to have to do. All right, we're hearing stories about $350,000 condos getting $250,000 assessments. All right? It's a bad situation. Okay, couple that. Oh yeah, by the way, we've got high interest rates right now. Oh yeah, and the insurance cost, which was already creating assessments for everybody in Florida and Alabama, and Mississippi for that matter. This is a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm. So it may be a great time to buy in Florida if you're feeling risky, but you're not going to know what you're paying for the condo. Okay? Yeah, I had a friend of mine call me last week. He's getting ready to buy a condo in the Rideau Beach area. He said, man, this thing is a smoking hot deal. I got to get it. I said, Dave, you need to think about this. Right? He had no idea. Nobody had told him. His realtor had not told him. They had not done phase one at all. They had not even talked about it. This is a condo that was built in 1985. All right? Look, a lot of these things get torn down. Like they're estimating a large, like 10 to 20% having to be torn down because they are not correct. It's too far gone, okay? So anyway, it may be a good time to buy a Florida that's around. I wouldn't if I were you. 3,000 of these things are from Panama City to DOT. So there you go. That's the wheelhouse right there. Go down there and take a look. But you're going to be getting assessments. I think just about every condo down there is looking at some assessments coming their way. I had an insurance agent. I was at a seminar in Florida about a year and a half ago. Insurance agent, been down there for 45 years. He stood up in front of a lot more people than this. He said, I got one word of advice. If you have a condo in Florida, sell it. Sell it now. Because you've got about a 3-month window to get rid of it. I promise you I'm going to give you some good news here. Regulation in Mississippi. Here's the good news. All right, we don't have it. All right, we really don't. We don't have much regulation. Alabama's the same way. You're talking about community associations are bodies that govern themselves. Okay, they're governed by their governing documents. There are restrictions on title that are filed with the courthouse. You can go see them. If you don't like them, don't live there.